Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about finger slings. Now finger slings, for those of you that don't know, are a piece of equipment we use to set a proper grip into our bow and to be able to follow through on our shot. If you've ever seen an Olympic recurve shooter, you've noticed that the bow swings out of their hand. This is allowed to happen because the finger sling actually catches our bow upon release. Now, most beginners use a finger sling that is very similar to this. Usually has these plastic tabs, so you can put your finger, usually index, tighten it, and usually a thumb, tighten it, and your bow would sit right in the center. Now, some of the disadvantages of using this kind of finger sling are that upon multiple uses, the plastic tabs tend to slip. These are also pretty bulky and can be cumbersome whenever you're shooting. Today, we're going to be showing you a nicer way of doing finger slings using a simple shoelace. First, we need to actually choose a shoelace that's actually going to be useful. Now, similar to these, we want something that's flat and soft to the touch. Most lengths are probably going to be good enough. The first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you actually find the center of the string. So, holding onto the two tabs at one end, keeping it flat, you're going to want to measure the knot from the actual loop about hand width apart. So pinky to thumb, and we're going to probably put the knot somewhere around here. Now, this isn't going to be perfect the first time, but I'll show you how to adjust it to make sure that it's at the appropriate place. From here, we're going to make a small knot in this area. Just loop your shoelace around, and then tighten it, making sure that you're keeping it at the same place. Tighten it a little bit, just make sure not to overdo it. And then this is going to be our starting position. After I show you how to actually loop it on your hands, then I'll explain how we want to adjust this to make it slightly bigger or slightly smaller. And that's mainly going to depend on hand size. Smaller hands, smaller loop. Let's demonstrate that again. We have our loop. You're going to get your fingers midway, loop around, touch, and then move the loop to the other side and tighten. Now, grabbing onto a bow, you're going to have it here. With the other hand, you're going to do the same. Grab onto the loop, turn, touch, and then move the loop over and onto your thumb. Now, like I mentioned before, when you have your hand on the bow, the loop or the knot should be in front of the actual riser. This makes sure that it doesn't get in the way of your fingers, especially when your fingers are up here, and it just makes it a lot more comfortable. Now, as far as spacing, we want to make sure that when your hand is fully into the bow, into your grip, you have about 1 inch of spacing in front of the actual riser. So this would probably be a good starting point to test out. When you're shooting, you want to make sure that as you're actually shooting, you have enough space for it to fully jump out of your hand and then swing through the follow-through. If you have the finger sling actually moving too far down or actually getting caught up here, the loop is probably too big. We're going to undo the knot and then tighten it up to make that loop smaller. If it's just barely coming out of your hand, it's not going anywhere, we need to make it a little bit bigger. We need enough space for it to fully jump out so we can swing our follow-throughs properly. Thank you guys for joining us for this tips and tricks video on shoelace finger slings. Now, we know it doesn't matter how well you shoot, but how well you look doing it. So, up at the front, we have plenty of shoelaces for sale for anyone who wants them. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube for any more tips and tricks in the future. And be sure to leave a comment below if there's any ideas you guys have for future tips and tricks. Thank you guys for joining us.